Good day. So I'm going to show you the basics of trigonometry grade 10. So I want to correct a mistake before I continue first. So most students actually make a mistake of memorizing this side is adjacent and this side is opposite. It's not true. It depends. For instance, if we have a street, let's just say we've got street here, and let's just say we're viewing houses from the top. Let's call this house A, B, C, D, E, F. If we look at A and D, they are opposite each other, they're facing each other, right? But now if we look at D and E, we can say they're adjacent. If we look at A and B, they're adjacent. When we look at B and E, opposite. When we look at, let's say C, and call this F. Alright, so C and F will be opposite, B and C will be adjacent. So we can never memorize something as opposite. For instance, A is opposite to D, but we can't memorize it as opposite because when it comes to B, A is now adjacent. So never memorize something as opposite or adjacent. It depends. It always depends. It's relative. For instance, B is opposite to E, but we can't memorize B as opposite. D is opposite to E, but when it comes to C, it's adjacent, or when it comes to A, it's adjacent. So it depends. We can never memorize something as opposite or adjacent. So the same thing goes for this stuff. So let me call this capital letter A, B, C, although you never see something like that. But this is the basic. This I'm dealing with understanding. So if I ask for sine alpha, alright, so you must memorize kato. This will be the until metric, right? So it's gonna be there. You must memorize it, like it's gonna be there. So what do we use this for? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, tan is opposite over adjacent. This you must know it by head. You don't have to always write it when you're doing an exercise. This you must know it by head. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. As we look at that, opposite over hypotenuse, right? So what is opposite of this angle? Whatever is opposite is where the angle is directly facing. This is opposite to this, right? So wherever the angle is directly facing is it's opposite. The side that the angle is directly facing is the opposite side. So the hypotenuse is the longest side. The one that the right angle is directly facing is always the hypotenuse. For instance, we can get a triangle like this. Which one is the hypotenuse? The hypotenuse is this side because the right angle is directly facing it. Wherever the right angle is directly facing is what you call the hypotenuse. So so this right angle is facing that, so our C is gonna be our hypotenuse. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so opposite is gonna be B. Our hypotenuse is C. And then now, what about cos alpha? Cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, alright? Cos is adjacent over hypotenuse. So what is adjacent? The one that is adjacent is the one that is just next to the angle, right? Which is A. So it's gonna be A over our hypotenuse, which is C. What about tan? What about tan alpha? Well, tan alpha is opposite over adjacent. So it means it's gonna be our opposite, which is whatever the angle is directly facing. Our opposite, which is B, over our adjacent, which is A, the side that is next to. Alright, so now let's say we're looking sine theta, right? Let's say we want sine theta. Now we're no longer referring to this angle. We're now referring to this angle. So remember, a lot of students make a mistake of memorizing this side is adjacent and this side is opposite. It's not true. It depends on the angle. For instance, to this angle, this side is adjacent because it's just next to it. But to that angle, this side is now opposite because the angle is directly facing this side, just like this house is directly facing this house, right? So this angle will be directly facing this one. Now this one will now be our opposite if we refer to this angle. But when we refer to this angle, that side is gonna be our opposite. So let's say we want to find sine theta. Sine theta is opposite over hypotenuse, so our opposite is this length, right? The angle is directly facing that, so it's gonna be A over our hypotenuse, which is still C. And then what about cos theta? Cos theta is adjacent, right? So what is adjacent to this angle? It's now this side. You see, before we were looking at this angle and this side was adjacent to it because it was next to it. But now we're looking at that angle. So which side is exactly next to it? It's this one, right? This angle is between two lines. whenever an angle is between two lines in a triangle, in a triangle, right, whenever it's between two lines, one of the lines will be the hypotenuse and the other one will be the adjacent. So the side that the right angle is not facing is the hypotenuse. So for instance, this angle is between this line and this line, and of course this one is the hypotenuse, so the other one is not just but to be adjacent to this angle. But if we're looking at this angle, it's between this line and this line, right? That's what makes the angle. So this one will obviously be our hypotenuse because the right angle is facing it, while this side is gonna be our adjacent, right? So this side is adjacent. So it's always like that. Whenever an angle is between two lines, one of them will be the hypotenuse, the other one will be the adjacent. It depends on where the right angle is directly facing. And if you've got any questions, comment on the section below. So this angle is directly facing this side, so this is our opposite, right? And the side that is just exactly next to this angle is this side, so it's adjacent of our hypotenuse. So our adjacent is B, right? This side is next to this one, and our hypotenuse is C. And then what about tan theta? Tan is opposite over adjacent, so it's gonna be A over B, and that's gonna be it. So just watch my next video on a higher level of trig grade 10. So this is the basics, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel so that you can receive more of this stuff.